Well, you think with the hostages back, people would be in a better mood. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. For some people, it's just hard. It's hard for them to say nice things about the guy they've been calling literally Hitler for the last 9 years or whatever. I get that. But let's go ahead and give some credit where credit's due. Actually, the media has been handling this generally well. In fact, that was something Trump had mentioned yesterday at the peace deal table.
I want to thank the media for you've been so respectful on this deal. You know the importance of the deal, and I really, it was so pleasant to watch. I was on the plane for quite a while listening to the various newscasts, and they were all fair. They were talking about how incredible this is. This is an incredible day for the world, let alone the Middle East. So I just wanted to thank the media. They really treated it with respect. I wish you could be like that on other things, but that's perhaps too much to ask for. But on this, tremendous, everybody feels the same. Just tremendous respect, and we appreciate it very much. Can we get the documents, please?
Wow. So look at this. We have, for at least 4 straight days now, peace in the Middle East. Wow. We've got the federal government about 20% shut down. That's going pretty good. Trump saying nice things about the media. The Cowboys should be 0-6. They managed to win 2 of them with this terrible defense. We're having a great fall, aren't we? So, in my attempt to bring you, both sides, so what is the media saying? What does that sound like? I didn't feel like going and grabbing you the most sensational, ridiculous takes from MSNBC and CNN. I wanted to show you what a little bit more, at least an attempt to be middle of the road news outlet sounds like. Now, ABC News, definitely left of the center. So listen to the tortured way Mary Bruce, their reporter, has to talk about this. Now, she'll admit that we have a peace deal, but there's also a long ways to go. And it starts out with her kind of laughing at the idea. It's like, oh, you can see Trump just put himself up front like he did anything. Like he's just like he all of a sudden had anything to do with this. He's just taking credit. But look, if this is as bad as it gets, this is actually really good. I'm not saying this is an honest take, and I'm not saying this is fair, but this is about as fair. This is fairer than we've come to expect. How about that?
And there is no question President Trump is taking ownership in many ways of this. It was remarkable to see him standing there greeting all of the leaders, shaking everyone's hands.
Yeah, he's taking ownership of this. Like he wasn't the driving force behind the negotiations. Like he wasn't the one who put it together. No, now he's just, it makes it sound like other people did the work, and he's just coming and taking ownership. But it's still not that bad. Like, what's he doing over here shaking hands and stuff? I was under the impression he was one of the guys that really pushed this along and kind of deserves some credit for it. Why would that be a weird thing? And then the reluctancy in her voice where she has to say, yeah, there's peace, but what about this? But what about this? But what about this? What about this? Just because she can't report just good stuff and leave it at that. There always has to be the follow-up, like, well, I guess.
So much of this will come down to these really, detailed, thorny issues. Who is going to pay? Who's going to put up forces to help to bring about security within Gaza, just so that you can get to the point of being able to rebuild? What happens to the people of Gaza who, have said it has been written in this 20-point peace plan? And this was a bit of a shift for the president, because you recall months ago, in fact, I recall that first meeting with Netanyahu in the Oval Office where President Trump stunned many by saying the Gazans Palestinians would have to leave Gaza. Now in this 20-point peace plan, quite the opposite tone. It says that they're being encouraged to stay. And I pushed the president on this point late last week, just asking him to clarify. Can he guarantee that no one will be forced to leave? And he said yes. Palestinians will be able to stay in Gaza. But of course, he has also noted that it is very difficult, given the conditions there, to imagine how they will be able to live through this rebuilding process. So there are just a lot of basic nuts and bolts logistical questions about how you are going to get to a point of peace.
You know what? I'll take it. There is a whole lot of, cautious optimism. It wasn't even cautious optimism. It was just caution. I'll take it. That's about as good as it's going to get. Half the internet is on View Watch right now because one of the co-hosts of The View, Alyssa Farah, made a promise I think this was in January. I don't know. This is being passed around. I must have seen it 10 times before I started the show today. This is Alyssa Fair making a promise back in January.
My point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah.
If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing.
Well,
you hear that miserable punk next to her, Sonny Austin? Don't do that. Please don't do that. Oh, yeah, God forbid we get the hostages out and someone has to wear a MAGA hat for an episode. No, it'd be worth it for the hostages to stay in captivity under Hamas. And Sonny Austin, please don't do that. Oh, no. I'd be like, look, I'd wear a chicken suit if it got the hostages out, if it helped. Yeah, do whatever, but no, don't make Trump look human or like something that's anything other than literally Hitler. Y'all calm down. So far, it's working. And I was actually planning, because it might sound like I'm just making this up on the spot, but I already know what I'm going to do a couple days out. I was expecting today for me to be doing the countdown on when we're going to get the last hostages out. I thought they were going to slow walk this, if they were going to do it at all. There's a lot of speculation if they were even going to follow through on releasing the hostages, because once the hostages are out, they have no more bargaining chips. What's to keep them from being carpet bombed? Absolutely nothing. And if someone was really trying to genocide you, wouldn't that be happening now? So yes and yes. So we do. We have the hostages out. There's no carpet bombing. Look at this. The peace deal is on schedule. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I don't know if it'll hold, okay? Don't ask me that. But coming up next, you know what else is still going on? The shutdown. All right, we'll celebrate day whatever we are in the shutdown. The longer, the better. And it's a breakdown for Mike Johnson on some of the spending that's trying to be added to the bill. We'll floor you next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. You want to hear what this shutdown's all about? It's about some spending that was cut in the one big beautiful bill, some spending that was cut from some of the Doge endeavors, most notably USAID and whatnot. And so when we talk about, the things that the Democrats are adding back to the bill, it's not like they went through this line by line and they're like, each one of these programs I think should be added back. They just want to restore the previous regime without any specifics. Just, hey, whatever got cut, just put it back in, whatever that is, let's just put it back in. So, we are your new home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins here on WBAP. They're on weekdays from 11 to 2. And so while I was stuffing my fat face with lunch, I was listening to this fantastic show. And they cracked me up and showed me like a little soundbite I had missed. So I'm going to give you the 2 minutes, really just, 2 minutes of Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And then I was like, man, I hadn't seen that soundbite anywhere. And I went back and I got the whole thing. And I'm going to play you a little more context to it. So you'll get the parts that they missed. But first, this was around lunchtime today.
Mentioned earlier today, this is what the Democrats want to reopen.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras.
Pause. You guys go with that? Climate resilience in Honduras, that seems pretty important. No? Okay.
They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe.
No.
What about the poor people in Zimbabwe, Scott?
What does that mean?
Civic engagement?
Yeah, what does that mean? Civic engagement. What is that?
That would mean leftist policies. Usually, or somebody's just getting the money.
Yeah,
it's just being funneled to somebody.
Yeah. Organizing bingo nights where everybody can participate. What is that?
It's a neighborhood watch.
Where you watch people just pass out checks.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yes.
All right, next.
They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans.
Okay. LGBTQI. What's the I?
Intersex, which is actually a medical condition, which is very weird that they've included that into the rainbow cult.
Got it. And then plus just means anything else you can come up with.
Pick one.
All right. Democracy grant. What does that mean, David? Your vast experience in the news industry. What is that?
That means, again, someone's cousin is making a lot of money.
Got it.
Name Grant.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Speaker?
They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa.
Well, that's a heck of a deal, the desert locust reduction.
Yes.
No, locusts are problematic,
In Africa. Okay. Big deal, I guess.
And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa.
Okay. Feminist democratic principles in Africa. How would you describe that, David?
Trying to get women in leadership roles, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so that was Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And they were just walking through one soundbite from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. He did a press conference today with a few other people that I didn't recognize at all, to be honest. And I was thinking maybe they had pulled that together from different parts of the speech and just lined them all up to make it sound super ridiculous. Here it is, unedited. Nah, he's just rolling through the list. It really is that silly.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that.
Yeah, I hope we're not doing that. But, Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins, they were making some jokes in there that were funny because the level of truth of them is pretty profound. When they were saying, who even does this? Like, how would you do that? Who would this employ? And the joke was lefty activist. And the reason that's funny is because, oh my God, that is so true. And then he says, well, who gets that contract? And he's like, well, somebody's cousin. Yeah, you're exactly right. Exactly. That's what all of these programs are. You know how I know? Libertarians think that's the dumbest thing in the world to dedicate your life to making a global warming coloring book for Mauritania or whatever's in there. We would never do that. We would never advocate for bike lanes. Who do you think is getting all these jobs in like Title IX offices and DEI offices? They're all 100% political activists. And if they weren't political activists before, they sure as heck are now. Because you get paid the same at your job, whether or not you go vote or whether or not who you vote for. These people's lives depend on their vote. Your job, your livelihood, like mine, I've got to get ratings. I've got to get revenue. If you're on the floor below me, you've got to get some sales. If you're in the lumber business, you got to cut down some trees or whittle them down and sell some sticks. But if you are the global warming coloring book for Mauritania guy, does it matter how many coloring books you distribute? Does it matter how much global warming increases or decreases? Does anything matter other than Team Blue either winning the next election or being so calcified into the deep state that even if you don't win the next election, you can skate through because you just get thrown back in with the baby and the bathwater when they try and put the spending bill back together at the next government shutdown? That's what this is really all about. But the lying, the obfuscation about the bill continues. You will hear Pocahontas telling a fib and getting busted next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, so if it's written, it's libel. If it's spoken, it's slander. What happens if it's smoke signals? I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Talking about Elizabeth Warren here, who's making the case that there's no such thing as illegals getting money from Medicaid. They're not getting taxpayer-funded health care. That's just a lie. It's written into the law. It's written into the law. So I have Elizabeth Warren in a interview here recently. I think this was over the weekend. And this is being passed around because someone added Ro Khanna to the end of it. And he's another Democrat congressman who in another interview, probably about the same time Elizabeth Warren's line to your face, was saying the truth. Well, oh, yeah. I mean, if you count like the, emergency care that illegals get when they go in the emergency room and they can't pay the bill and someone gets stuck with it. Well, I mean, I guess in that instance, you could say illegals get Medicaid, but so here it is. They're just married back to back for your enjoyment.
Understand, the only thing that Republicans are saying now about health care is Democrats want to give it to undocumented immigrants, which is a lie. The law is perfectly clear. No undocumented immigrants get any access to Medicaid. They get no access to ACA supplements, none, zero, zip.
We have an emergency Medicaid program. And I guess if you mean that when you fund Medicaid, when you fund the Affordable Care Act, that you're saying you're funding some of it for undocumented people who are showing up in emergency situations, then yeah, you're funding that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to count every time illegals get taxpayer-funded health care through Medicaid, then yeah, they're getting taxpayer-funded health care through Medicaid, I guess. Also, when we play the soundbite from the Democrat primary debate in 2020, where the moderator asks all the candidates to raise your hand if you're cool with taxpayer-funded health care for illegals, I believe Elizabeth Warren's in this group.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay, let me start with you, Mayor Buttigieg. Why?
So that's every candidate, and then everyone in the crowd is cheering it on like, yeah, you better say that because we're all on board with it. So all the candidates agree, all the political factions agree, from the Bernie Sanders wing to the Pete Buttigieg wing to the Joe Biden wing. So you got the upstarts, the news, the letter people, you've got the old guard, the geezer that's running around like a human Roomba. Everyone agreed on it. Everyone in the audience agreed on it. The moderator asked it like it was a done deal. And then here in 2025, it's like, oh, how dare you even claim that one of us would want health care from taxpayer dollars to go to illegals? Oh my goodness. Why would you make up such vicious lies? But that's all they do is lie. So now that we have it doubly sealed, let's go back and let's hear just Elizabeth Warren again, just lying her little head off.
Understand, the only thing that Republicans are saying now about health care is Democrats want to give it to undocumented immigrants, which is a lie.
And that's not the only thing we're saying. So that's the only thing they're saying about it. No. I'm saying a lot of other things. I'm saying we need to repeal Obamacare too. I am sure that there's a lot of other people who are on board. You're probably on board with that too. No, that's not the only thing we're talking about. We're also talking about the Obamacare subsidies for people who are not just here legally, but natural-born citizens. Because we have other sound bites where people from CNN or who else is crying about, oh my goodness, well, if you take these subsidies away, how's a 60-year-old couple making $85,000 a year going to make it without these subsidies? So look, they're talking about it.
Imagine an older couple out there who's making $85,000 a year. That's not billionaires or anything like that, but that's a higher earner in this case. Here's their current premium, $7,225 per year. That's 8.5% of their income. That's like
yeah. But the point being, they're talking about that. They're talking about the work requirements being added back to Medicaid, to where, hey, if you're going to get it, you got to lift a finger, and we'll just make it half of what Bill Clinton asked you to do in the 90s. Remember when we had that big welfare reform actually balanced the budget we cut so much? Wasn't that kind of nice? So, I mean, the whole thing is full of lies. The only thing they're saying about healthcare. No, it's not the only thing we're saying about healthcare. And plus, the thing you say after that is a lie anyway. Yes, you do want it for illegals. This is Stephen Weatherford. You're on WBAP. Hey, Steve.
Hey, sir. I would just ask the Democrats in the Senate and the House to take one day, fashion a bill that says no benefits to illegal aliens, and everybody in the world will come back right quick and vote it in power.
Well, yeah, and you're bringing up another logical fallacy. If it's already illegal, then why are you fighting it, right? Then why would you fight its ban if it doesn't exist?
I'm just calling them on their lip service.
Exactly. No, you're totally right to do so. It's the same thing that was said about like critical race theory or whatever. It's like that's not even being taught in schools. Then why are you fighting banning it?
Yeah, they're just lipping off, have them put it in writing as a new bill, and the Republicans everywhere and the Democrats can all vote for it. No benefits to illegal aliens.
How many of these people would go home immediately if there was no benefits? And when I say no benefits, I mean no public school. I mean no benefits, no food stamps, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no Social Security. And I know there's a lot of people saying, well, they can't get that stuff anyway. Well, some of them are. And if they're not, then why would you fight a ban on it?
I love that even better. Call the Democrats out on their lip service bull and tell them, put it all in writing. We'll show up and vote on it on Thursday this week. Yeah. Nothing free for illegal immigrants.
Well, I'll make an exception. They can still use DART because that's hell on earth, man. That'll make them want to go home even faster if they have to ride around on DART. Thank you very much, Stephen Weatherford. In fact, that's coming up next. Did you hear about the latest news on DART? They've been getting killed. Their budgets are wrecked. They're racking up debt. They're cutting service. There's crime all over the place. The customers are not happy. Ridership's down, and they just gave themselves all giant bonuses for doing such a good job at your expense. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Logan Washburn from Dallas Express, who did a scathing rundown. Next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners, I'm going to make a confession. I know jack about decorating a home or what's cool or what's in style. That's Miss Parker's department. Hi, Miss Parker. And she'll tell you, if you've got these bricks that look like sort of that Brady Bunch era orange on them and you're tired of your house looking old, a lot of people have started painting their bricks. That's not what you want to do. You want to coat your bricks with Rhino Shield. James Parker here, rhinoshielddfw.com. You don't want to paint your bricks. In some instances, if you get the wrong kind of paint on the wrong kind of brick and the wrong kind of setting, it can actually sort of rot it away and not be good. And, you know, it makes a film on there that can have negative consequences with the wrong bricks. And I don't know which bricks stand it and which bricks don't, but I do know that Rhino Shield does not have that problem. It's a space-age technology. It's a coating that we use now instead of paint, and while being at the same time water resistant, it's also fully breathable. They'll show you how it works, and the primer is like a really, really thin crepe. You know, the little pastries. And so it expands in the summer. It contracts in the winter when your house contracts. So that's why you don't get any cracking, flaking, or peeling. It's better for the bricks. It looks great. The color won't fade. It'll last a whole lot longer. You get lower energy costs because it insulates. It reflects 90% of UV rays. And you'll never have to deal with painting your house again. Go to rhinoshielddfw.com. rhinoshielddfw.com. If you're new to the show, I hate Dart with the hot, hot heat of 1,000 suns. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And in my quest to make the world a better place, one thing that I would do in our backyard that could just immediately have a positive impact is get rid of Dart. I don't know if you realize how bad Dart's record has been your entire life. And I understand why you don't know. Because most of the news outlets around here, whatever comes up about Dart, hey, that's great. Hey, it's expanding. This is a good thing. Hey, why don't we take this terrible failure and build one all the way to Houston? Yeah, that'll be great. Everything gets cheered. Let's review, though. We learned in a breakdown that we saw in the Dallas Express from Dennis McQuistion earlier this year that when Dart was passed by Dallas voters in 1983, this is what was promised Dart was supposed to look like now. There was only supposed to be 25 to 35 employees. There are 3,800 employees. You understand that? 50% of the operating costs were supposed to be covered by the fares that were charged to the riders. Today, the fare box just covers 10% of salaries. Just salaries. There's supposed to be 147 miles of light rail by 2010. We only have 93 and it's 2025. There was supposed to be no borrowed money. It was never supposed to go into debt. It was never supposed to take federal government subsidies. Yet now we owe $3.8 billion and counting. And they've already received billions in federal government subsidies. A hole that far. It was also supposed to reduce traffic congestion. We all get a good laugh at that. And now, to make matters worse, if you go to Dallas Express today, you can see Logan Washburn's review on how they just thought that they're doing such a good job. They gave themselves all giant bonuses. So now I have to have him on. Logan Washburn, welcome back to the James Show. Thank you for pointing this out because I didn't see this story anywhere else. DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit executives just paid themselves $747,000 in bonuses. How did this even happen, Logan? Well, and then in your report down here, another number that I think the people listening would be quite interested in is the CEO of DART. She's getting $64,000 in bonuses on top of her regular salary of $346,000. So that brings her compensation just with these two factors over $400,000, like $410 something thousand. Wow, that's a good gig. Yeah, clearly it's going to the executive staff. Now, what we're having, though, on top of this is DART is in their cutting era, to use the popular nomenclature of the time, the parlance of our times. Yeah, DART is not expanding services. There's no reason why they should get bonus because they've had an explosion of ridership, or because they've had a great safety record, or because they've expanded service. They're doing the opposite. They're actually in a time of contraction. So what on earth are these bonuses based on, Logan? Yeah, well, clearly it's not based on performance, and I wouldn't know any of this if not for your great work. This is Logan Washburn, DallasExpress.com. Great report. I invite everyone to go read it. Thank you for your work, Logan. See, this is what I'm talking about. When I say I hate DART and I want it to go away, I think a lot of people think I'm crazy because they've just never been presented with this idea before. Every time they've turned on the TV or picked up a newspaper or went to a website or some sort of stream online, everyone told them it was great. But I think if you've been listening to the James Show for a while, or really just WBAP for a while, you're so on board with this. It's just, can we get everyone else on board? Because this is such an unnecessary waste of money, and I can't wait for it to go away. Coming up next on the James Show, will there be another pandemic? Fauci says, of course. You're going to hear him say it next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Will there ever be another pandemic? This is the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Because Anthony Fauci did an interview over the weekend, and he said, yeah, of course we're going to have another pandemic. Not just no, Fauci. That's a hell no from the Parker camp. We're never doing this again. But here he is.
And then there's the transformative, if I might use that word, experience that we've all had now in year 5 of COVID. So the thought that we won't have another pandemic, I think, is naive at best and just not completely unrealistic at worst. So to rephrase your question, I'm convinced that there will be another pandemic, and that's the reason why we have to be perpetually prepared to prevent the terrible impact of a pandemic.
No way. Not happening. Not after what we just saw in 2020. The lie after lie. Wasn't everything about that a lie? Even if we actually do have a for real pandemic this time with a for real deadly virus that has more than a 1% mortality rate, even if they drop off the full blown Ebola, if we have the Ebola virus from the Kevin Spacey movie Outbreak, or he's not liked anymore, from the Cuba Gooding Jr. movie Outbreak, even if we have, the little rhesus monkey that was running around biting people, even if we have that virus, I'm not tolerating a shutdown. Again, you shouldn't either. I hope nobody does. In fact, I found it wildly disappointing how many of us just rolled over during the first shutdown. I was like, okay, I guess I'll let you shut down my business and shut down my kids' school. And I mean, the church is where I thought we would really have the sort of a Alamo moment where it's like, all right, you're not going to let us go to church. Clearly that's in not just our founding documents, but sort of the whole thrust behind the founding of this country entirely. And I figured we would all show up by the droves, just tens of millions of Christians showing up at church, getting arrested. Nah, we all sat at home like a bunch of babies. Well, the problem with that is even if there is a real pandemic, even if there is the Ebola virus, we shouldn't even let that happen again for a second. And I don't think we will. But this guy, of course we'll have it. Really? Of course we will? And did you hear the sort of lie at the very beginning here of his statement?
And then there's the transformative, if I might use that word, experience that we've all had now in year 5 of COVID.
Bro, year 5 of COVID. COVID's been over for 3 years. COVID was a 2-year thing. To act like he's still acting like we're in the middle of a pandemic now. He's still acting like we're in an emergency. There's people out there still taking their boosters. When's the last time did you take any booster? I hate to brag here, but I never took any boosters. Thank you very much. I never took any original vaccine. Thank you very much. It's like, well, I had to take a vaccine to keep my job. Well, I did too. So old James was unemployed for a minute there. It's not that big of a deal. I was fine. I figured it out. But look, here is Hope Walls. This is Tim Walls' daughter. This guy became really close to being our vice president about a year ago. And his daughter's out there. Yep. Got my latest COVID booster. Got my latest flu vaccine. This is insane. What are you even getting the COVID shot for? It doesn't keep you from getting it. It doesn't keep you from spreading it. It doesn't keep you from being hospitalized. It doesn't keep you from dying. What is even going on with these people? How hard do these people have to be brainwashed to still be getting a booster in year 5 of the COVID pandemic? Here's Hope Walls.
I got my COVID and flu vaccines today, and I'm so happy about that. I got them for a few reasons. One, because it's the right thing to do for myself, but also for everybody around me, and also a little bit out of spite. There have been years where I've forgotten to get my flu shot, but this year was not going to be one of those years because, again, I trust science and I'm not a idiot. So here we are. I am someone that does kind of get affected. When I first got my COVID shot, I was down bad for a couple days. And even when I get my flu shot, I don't typically feel good for a day or two afterwards. And for people that are gonna be like, that means it's bad for you. No, that means it's working. That's how that works. And it's well worth it to protect myself, but also everybody around me, especially when I work with vulnerable communities. It's my civic duty at this point So go get your vaccines. CVS made it like so easy.
Oh my God. Did you slap your forehead? Did you wreck your car listening to that? Just because it made me sick for a couple days doesn't mean it's bad for me. It means it's working. Look, in my book, anything that makes you sick is probably bad for you. Yeah, it just made me sick for a couple of days. That means it's a good thing. Well, what's the good thing it's supposed to be doing? Well, keeping me from getting a disease that would make me sick for a couple days. So it gave you the thing that you're trying to avoid, and you're like, see, it works. Wow. Just that's mind is blown. If you are this brainwashed, how do you come out? How do you talk someone out of that? It's like the global warming people. They're like, oh yeah, it's really cold this fall. Well, that's global warming too. Oh yeah, it's raining, global warming. It's a drought, global warming. Sea levels rising, global warming. Sea levels not rising, global warming. Everything. Yeah, I got this shot that's supposed to keep me from getting sick. It made me sick for a couple days, and now I'm glad I got it because it's working. How do you even talk to someone like that? Well, let me ask you, am I missing something? Do you think there'll be another pandemic? Do you think they're even going to try this again? 800-288-9227. I want to hear from y'all, or you can send me an email, james@wbap.com. Also, I'm going to be at the State Fair of Texas tomorrow and Friday next to the old mill, like when Big Tex is up there by the main entrance going, howdy, folks. If you go straight to Big Tex left, like his left arm, kind of where he's pointing, that's the old mill. I'll be right outside of that, so come by and say hi. Coming up next, RT Trevino from the Crude Truth podcast is going to talk about how the price of gas has gone down over the last month. What is your holiday driving season going to bring you? Find out on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. The price of gas is looking better. How will it be for your holiday driving? It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. My next guest is going to have some strong opinions about such things. RT Trevino's coming back on from the Crude Truth podcast. Welcome back, RT. And so I saw a report, prices are down over the most recent month here. Is this about where they will be for the next few months? You expect them to go up? You expect them to go down? Where are you at, RT? Well, we also see, as far as geopolitics, peace in the Middle East is usually good for gas prices. Is there going to be a bump or any effect on the price of oil from this recent peace deal? Well, RT, I also see now that the diplomacy is done for the Middle East, that we'll be able to turn our sights and focus on what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. And if that gets settled, that's another giant oil producing nation that'll come online with fewer speed bumps. We could get some movement in the price of oil there. Well, if we have too much oil come online, the price of gas goes too low. That's bad news for us here in Texas. How would you explain a downhole pump to someone who knows nothing about the oil industry? And what is the job of a roustabout? Yeah, explain to people the difference between a roustabout and a roughneck. Fantastic. We hear all these terms out in the country. I don't think city people are as firsthand with the oil industry as we are out there. But, I grew up in the patch, so I just love passing along the words. What's coming up on the Crude Truth podcast this weekend, RT? Is this because y'all can't get new permits or leases or inspections or something to that effect? Yeah, I was under the impression y'all wouldn't be stopped at all. Who is getting slowed down by the shutdown in the oil industry? All right. Thank you very much, RT Trevino on the Crude Truth podcast. Appreciate you being on the James Show, sir. All right. And I need to issue a correction. Garrett rightfully pointed out when we went to break there. I said I was going to be at the State Fair broadcasting live for the next 2 days. No, it's Thursday and Friday. I just forgot today's Tuesday. I was kind of hoping it was Friday. Turns out it's Wednesday. No, it's still just Tuesday. But no, I'll be out there Thursday and Friday in front of the Old Mill to Big Texas Left. By not too far from the front entrance. So come by, say hi, judge me based on my appearance. You know the jokes. But yeah, Thursday and Friday, I'm at the Texas State Fair. All right, and when we come back, I got some good feedback on the Fauci saying, well, of course we're going to have another pandemic. And I was asking you, are you done with all these pandemics? Are you done with vaccines? Are you getting your flu vaccine this year? Because I feel like I'm never doing another pandemic again. I'm never doing another vaccine again. I don't care what it is. I don't care how you try and scare me. You're not sticking anything else into my arm. Forget it. That era has passed. So I already got some good feedback on that. I'll share that with you next. And if you want to jump in, 800-288-9227, I'd like to chat with you too about the upcoming pandemic and getting your flu shots. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, football fans. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. You know what? I'm going to try the thing that worked for me last weekend. I'm going to pick less than on the punters for the Cowboys game. Because think about it. The Cowboys defense, they're total dog water. They're Swiss cheese. You can walk right through it like cheap toilet paper, right? So, the other team's not going to be punting a whole lot. They're not getting a whole lot of 3 and outs over there, are they? So whatever the punt was, last week it was 4. So I picked less than. And so the converse happens on the offensive side of the ball. We have a pretty good offense. We can get first downs. And actually, we're not going to get, big giant leads to where we can just sit on it and waste some time and play the field position game. We're going to have to go for it on 4th downs. We're really going to have to push it. So I picked less than on the Cowboys punter and the Cowboys opponent's punter. I'm going to do that again this weekend. It worked for me last week. I'll let you know if I can score with that 2 weekends in a row. But that's how easy it is. I'm already watching the Cowboys game. I'm just adding a little bit more fun to it. So what you do is you make a lineup of yourself, take 2 to 6 players from your favorite teams. You look at a specific statistic. You pick more or less. You can win up to 2,000 times your money on America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Millions of players, billions in prizes awarded already. And if you're new to the app, you can get a little bit of a bonus. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP, and you get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. Use promo code WBAP. Download the Prize Picks app. Get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. It's your chance to win part of $5K a day on WBAP. Your chance at $1,000 right now. Pay off some bills? Just text CASH to 95819. Text CASH, CASH, to 95819, and you could score $1,000. Sponsored locally by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm. Good luck. Are you ready for the next pandemic? I'm James Parker on The James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Fauci was interviewed a couple days ago saying, yeah, of course we're going to have another pandemic. Get ready, y'all.
And then there's the transformative, if I might use that word, experience that we've all had now in year 5 of COVID. So the thought that we won't have another pandemic, I think, is naive at best and just not completely unrealistic at worst. So to rephrase your question, I'm convinced that there will be another pandemic, and that's the reason why we have to be perpetually prepared to prevent the terrible impact of a pandemic.
How about no, Fauci? How about never again are we going to subject ourselves to that crap? Remember, this is Fauci. We're in year 5 of the pandemic. Dude, there is no pandemic. There never was any pandemic. You never had the girl. Let's go back into some of Fauci's greatest hits here. And I'll get to some of the response because I've already got a couple emails and whatnot. But this is 2024. This was barely over a year ago. This is August 12th, 2024. He just got COVID for the 3rd time after 6 boosters.
I got infected about 2 weeks ago. It was my 3rd infection, and I had been vaccinated and boosted a total of 6 times.
Okay, and you still believe in it? How many times do you have to get boosted and have it fail before you're like, hey, maybe these boosters things aren't really doing anything? There's so much good stuff here. I mean, and look, here's one of my favorites where he lied. He lied to Neil Cavuto's face about, I never spoke out against the lab leak or anything forcefully. And then, of course, we put this right next to the flashback of him saying the thing that he just said he didn't say.
If it may have been a lab, may have been nature, we're supposed to look forward, then why did Dr. Fauci work so hard for just one of those theories?
What do you say to that? I'm almost have to laugh at that, Neil. I mean, that's totally bizarre. First of all, I wasn't leaning totally strongly one way or the other. Flashback.
What I do feel strongly about is that this was a spillover from an animal species to a human.
Strongly suggesting that, in fact, it was a natural occurrence.
Very strongly. Strongly indicating that it was a natural spillover.
Strongly points to this being a natural occurrence.
Pointing much more strongly
Pretty strong.
towards a natural occurrence.
Very, very strongly. Strongly favors a natural occurrence.
I wasn't leaning totally strongly one way or the other.
It's very, very strongly leaning towards this could not have been artificially or deliberately manipulated.
God, I love that montage. It's one of the best. All right, now here's what people have been saying back to you. This is from Adrian, who sent me a Facebook message. As a society, we are way over vaccinated. We no longer seem to rely on our accrued immunities against things. What children require now compared to what my kids were required in the early 90s compared to what was required for me when I was a kid are really extreme numbers. If we're having to increase for that many boosters, are the vaccines even really working at all? Between that concept and the entire COVID lie, I no longer trust pharmaceutical companies very much. One time I did get a flu shot. I got the flu, was sicker than a dog. I haven't had one since then. It's been 20 years and I barely had a regular cold. You know, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this. Thank you for your feedback here about how all this attempt to strengthen our immunity has weakened us so much that we now have kids who can't eat wheat. We now have kids who touch a peanut and they die. And on tomorrow's show, we're having a doctor on to talk about this new study that shows early exposure to peanuts pretty much prevents kids from getting peanut allergies. So you're not naturally allergic to peanuts. You had to train your body to be this weak and this allergic to the most light and trifling of stimuli. Anyway, more on that tomorrow. This is from the email from Lawrence. He said, I think Dems and all the other climate change supporters would create another pandemic just to reduce the world's population, even if their lives and their loved ones are at stake. Suicidal empathy. And Ronnie sent me an email, james@wbap.com. He said, if you remember, I believe in 2015, that little weasel, I imagine he's talking about Fauci, that little weasel predicted the next president would have a pandemic. Research it. That little weasel is probably at it again. Yeah, you know what? All good points were brought up here. And let me give you a longer response because I have a lot to say to that. Because is there going to be another pandemic? Well, I don't think there's going to be another real pandemic. Are they going to try another BS pandemic like they did for COVID? That I think is a possibility. I'll explain next. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Are you ready for the next pandemic? Are you ready for the next attempt at a pandemic? Now, when I say pandemic, I am using the capital P term where people freak out and they get to have all kinds of new powers and levers of power in the hands of politicians. I don't think we'll ever go through that again. Will we have a new disease or some novel virus that comes through and spreads through our population and, the literal definition of a pandemic? Oh, sure. We'll have several of those, whatever. But will we ever have this thing where we all get so scared that we ruin 2 years of our children's schooling and we don't allow people to go to their own mother's funeral? Will we do it at the same time while protesters are running around every weekend wheezing about George Floyd? No, I don't think we'll ever do that again. And rightfully so. But they're going to try. And I don't know if you've noticed, but they do this a lot where they throw out these test balloons, and depending on how we react, they either keep pushing or they stop pushing. And they have thrown out test balloons over and over the last 2-3 years trying to restart the COVID pandemic. And to your credit, and by you, I mean the American people, not you specifically, we're not up for it again. We're not falling for it. We kind of have fatigue here. But rest assured, they will try it. Oh, you watch. This is JD in Fair Park. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James. Not really I don't live in Fair Park. I'm just stuck in traffic there. But my question here is, why are we even mentioning Fauci? Is he not disbanded, and does he have authority at this moment?
So we are mentioning Fauci because, no, he has not been disbanded or disbarred or had his license revoked. He is still in good standing. I think technically he's retired from the federal government, but we're talking about him now because his name still holds weight. He's still being asked to do interviews. He's still doing interviews, and the people that are doing the interviews are treating him like he's legit. And so if everyone else is going to have to treat him like he's legit, then we're going to have to play him and give the other side of the story so we don't get run over again. Our lack of pushback is how we got in this terrible position in the first place. And, whether or not you had kids that had their education ruined, I had 4 kids who missed basically a whole year of school, and then they were going to miss a second year of school, but we moved from New Orleans back to Bug Tussle, where all of a sudden there's no pandemic. And here we didn't have to wear masks. But look, the only thing I'm grateful for as far as the pandemic goes is it's the best illustration that we've had in our lifetime on how different your world can be depending on where you are geographically, because we were going back and forth at the time because Miss Parker's from New Orleans and I was living down there for a time when I met her and started my family. But we would come back to, when I say Bug Tussle, I mean my small town out in the middle of East Texas. So there was the big lockdown that happened in May where everyone put on masks and everyone shut down their schools. And then they said, okay, well, maybe we'll lift it in 2 weeks. Okay, maybe we'll lift it by Easter. Okay, maybe we'll lift it by the end of the month. After that, everyone in Buck Tussle said, I'm not listening to you guys anymore. We're just going to go back to normal. You could go to a restaurant. You could go to a bar. You could go to a gas station. You could go to school. No one was wearing masks. Your waiter wasn't wearing a mask. It was only when you went into the big towns where the pandemic existed. And so it was such a great example that every day of your life, if you lived out in the country, no pandemic, you go in the city, they swear it's the scariest thing in the world, and we absolutely have to infringe on all of your constitutional civil rights. That's how dangerous it is. And then you drive in an hour in any direction, and people are just living their lives, being normal. And so it's impossible for country people to do this again.
Well, James, I'm from the original country. I'm from Arkansas. Came out here a long time ago. Blue collar man. I work in the city, however, and I'm going to tell you, man, the last time that I had the flu was in 2019, right around December. I worked around 150 different people who didn't wear masks. We were within close quarters, and we just continued to work because we were, deemed, I forget the actual term, but, they needed us to work.
Essential workers? Yeah.
There you go. Yes, sir. And so I shut it down real quick, made sure. I also have 4 children. I think I'm just a few years older than you. But my kids are grown, but I had my voice in that one. Told them, I gave them every piece of education I could to tell them, please, don't do it. Research it if you feel like you need to. Let me know first. So as far as I know, all of us, we never had it. One of them was in college at the time, so maybe she did. She just hadn't even told me. But the thing is, man, it's like we caught that at the beginning, as far as we saw what was coming and decided not to act on it. Made a lot of good friends, but also a lot of people, turned sideways towards us. We were asked why we weren't wearing masks. We never wear masks.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just one of those things. And you know what, though, it's just sad to say that even today, and I'm not pushing anything on you, but the company you work for, they still advertise Pfizer and they still advertise getting your vaccinations for COVID. So,
well, hey,
I'm kind of confused on that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the only thing I'm going to push back on. I am a capitalist pig, so if you want to push the vaccine on my show, I'll take your money. I don't know if this is the best audience and the best judicial use of your promotional dollars, but I'll take your money. I'll do a commercial for jamesisanidiot.com if you pay me enough. I'll do.
There we go, brother.
Yeah,
There we
James
go.
is
Yeah, man.
fat, ugly, stupid, bald, and short, and he has a hairy back.com. I'll do. Hey, in fact, if y'all are starting that company out there, you better start with me. I'll be your spokesman. I'll do all your commercials, and I'll do a damn good job. Coming up next, very concerning pit bull attack in Lake Worth. What do we do with these crazy pit bull people who are hurting your neighbors? Well, I have some answers next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. What do we do about pit bulls? It's the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Welcome back to the big show. Because I read stories like what happened with this Lake Worth woman, and this sounds terrible, and it really seems like, I'm not trying to oversimplify things or be Mr. Reductive here. This seems like there's a real easy fix to this. It's like, oh, that's not what you normally say. You usually say things, there's a lot of layers or complicated. No, not really. Not on this one. And it really is a pretty simple story. A lady and her son and the dog went to the dog park, and some big pit bull broke away from their owner, jumped on the lady, and she was fighting for her life. She's on the ground. There's a lot of defensive wounds on her arms because the dog is trying to get to her face, but she's smartly covering her face. And it's sort of the scariest case scenario that you imagine when you hear about someone being attacked by a pit bull. It's the scariest case you imagine when you see a dog. When you're out on a walk and you see a dog that's not on a leash, you're like, oh my goodness, am I going to end up on my back trying to defend my face from getting tore up by some pit bull? Well, the owner comes over there, and okay, eventually the dog's off. The lady's going to live, but she does have to go to the hospital. She has some pretty big lacerations, which is just the Latinized version of cuts. She's all cut up. Some of it's on her face. These are nasty wounds. They had a picture of her when she was still in the hospital. She's out now. She was only there to get all stitched up, and they monitored for a minute, and then she got out within hours, from what I understand on the reporting from WFAA. But when the cops got there, the lady who owns the pit bull had the dog, and she was walking away, and she walked past the cops as they were going to help the lady that had been attacked by a pit bull. And, I don't blame the cops. They didn't know that she was involved in it, but she, made her immediate getaway. And then she's now on the run. We're on the lam. I feel silly saying that. I don't know if she's even run. She hasn't turned herself in yet. She has been recognized by her family members in the report that did go out on WFAA. So the family members have told the cops, we know who she is. This is our relative. And now they know who she is and where she lives. They went to go pick her up. She's not there. So police have identified the suspect, according to WFAA, 45-year-old Autumn Billings. Autumn, if you're listening to the show right now, turn yourself in, okay? There's nothing else that can be done, no advantage that can be gained. It can only get worse by you waiting. Do the right thing, turn yourself in. And then after that, you're no longer allowed to listen to the James Show. You need to turn this off. Call the cops, turn yourself in, face justice, and you have a lifetime ban from the James Show. Well, pending your court case. If you're found innocent in a court of law, I have had to rescind James Show bans before. But here we have a lady that's all tore up. She has a broken forearm, dislocated fingers, a damaged artery. And the woman, Autumn Billings, is facing some charges, but these charges sound silly. Police have issued a warrant for attack by dog causing serious bodily injury. These pit bull stories come up quite a bit. And a lot of people say, well, it's not the dog, it's the owner. Well, part of it's the dog. Because even if you have a terrible owner, no one's getting their forearm broken because of a chomp bite from a Shih Tzu, are they? No, a toy poodle has never ripped anyone's face off. If a Chihuahua goes absolutely insane and has the worst owner ever, this lady doesn't end up in the hospital. So yeah, part of it is bad owners, but there's also the other part of it where I've heard stories, because don't call in with the basic stuff. You better have some second level thinking if you're going to call on this topic, because 23 years, this keeps happening. People with pit bulls will call in and they'll say, oh, I have a pit bull and we let my infants play with it. We had like 6 kids and it was so good around them, and he'd crawl all over them and pull their ear and the dog never did anything. Hey, that's fine. It's lucky it worked out for you. But to me, that sounds like you put a grenade on the coffee table and you're like, yeah, we've had a grenade on the coffee table for 20 years. No kid's ever pulled the pin. No one's died from it. So it's totally safe. No, that's worked out for you. But you know what other calls I've gotten? I've gotten the calls where people say, look, we knew what we were doing. Not only were we responsible pit bull owners, we were trainers. In fact, my husband's a vet. And so we know everything there is to know. There's no one who knows more about dogs than us. The people who go to the American Kennel Club dog show in New York City to have the dog championships don't know more about dogs than us. We did everything right. And we still had a pit bull just tear off one day and bite up my kid's arm. So I've heard all the stories. The part where you and I have a little bit of gray area to talk about is how do we deal with this? Because there's a lot of people who think, well, this is easy. Why don't you just ban pit bulls? No, that's not so easy. And a lot of people don't like that because you think in your head and you feel naturally just a visceral tie to freedom here. Like, wait a second, banning things. We're not for banning things. We're not gonna. You can't even ban a dog breed. I mean, you could write it into law, but it's not going to stop it any more than it stops dog fighting, any more than it stops methamphetamines, any more than it stops trans people from being trans or gay people from being gay. Or there's just some things you can't legislate. It doesn't matter how illegal you make drugs. Hunter Biden's going to get high tonight. So it doesn't matter if you outlaw pit bulls. You're not going to get rid of them. They exist. They're on this planet. It's a genetic sequence. That's really out of your jurisdiction. I'll tell you my solution coming up next. What's your solution? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Because I agree in some facets. It's not necessarily the dog, it's the owner. But there's something to be said about the dog too. And there's something to be said about my solution. And you'll hear it in 4 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we have another almost deadly pit bull attack. This one happened in Lake Worth, left a woman in a hospital. The owner is at large. And the question is, what is the solution to pit bull attacks? I do not like the idea of banning pit bulls. For one thing, it's not possible. Y'all say, like, you act like if you pass a law, then there's going to be this magical wand that just erases all the pit bulls of the world, or there's going to be a magical force shield that protects you from pit bulls if you could just pass the right legislation or just restrict enough freedoms. It's not going to happen. Look, there are Michael Vicks out in the world that if you outlaw pit bulls, they're still going to have pit bulls. They're still going to breed them. You're just going to drive it underground. So what's my solution? Oh, my solution is real simple, actually. Right now, the owner of the dog, the suspect that the Lake Worth Police Department's looking for, Miss Billings, her warrant is for attack by dog that causes serious bodily injury. Now, I think dogs shouldn't be treated like their own entity. I think they should be treated just like any other property of the owner, and treated just like if Miss Billings had gone up to this lady and hit her in the head with a shovel and put her in the hospital. What will we charge her with? Well, at least battery, probably aggravated battery because you're using a weapon. If there's some malicious intent or reckless nature to it, maybe it's even attempted murder. That's what you do for dogs. That's exactly what you do for dogs. This isn't a charge of, what is this silly charge? Attack by dog causes serious bodily injury. No, this is attempted murder. You just hold the owner of the dog responsible as if the owner had done whatever danger it is to themselves. So if a dog goes and kills somebody, you just murdered somebody. And you're like, well, that's not fair. What if the dog, was properly pinned up and stuff and managed to get out or managed to slip out of its leash, slip out of its collar? It's still your problem. That's the problem of the owner. So that's what I think. It should be treated just like we treat guns, really. And it's not the dog. It's the person who's in charge of the dog. Now, you can still own a pit bull, and if you want to go put it in, some cave or some pit out in the middle of nowhere and it's never going to harm anybody, no harm, no foul, then you should have the right to do that. Your liberty should extend until someone else's nose begins. And since no one's nose got hit, you're fine. You're cool. So we don't need a ban on pit bulls. We just need to treat pit bulls like we treat any other property of the owner. And these little attacks right here, this is not attack by a dog caused serious bodily injury. No, this is attack by the human being that almost killed the lady. This could be attempted murder, at least aggravated battery. But you start putting real penalties on it, and you start seeing these people go to jail, and people will stop getting pit bulls. It's not worth it. In the off chance that something does happen, or it does freak out, or in the exception that proves the rule. Is it worth going to jail to have that kind of a dog? I doubt it. This is Terry in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP. What's up, Terry?
Well, hi, James. And now that I've listened to you, my suggestion probably wouldn't work because I was thinking maybe some sort of licensing, $1 million insurance policy. But like you say, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Yeah,
well, I like the idea of, making people prove their proficiency and being insured in case something does happen. They have at least the full coverage of the liability or whatever. But you're still going to have some goober from the middle of nowhere right outside of Wilmer who's running the dogfighting ring. Yeah. And it's going to attack somebody. And, he didn't have a license. Oh, he didn't have insurance. Well, I guess that law didn't do anything to stop it. So
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And by the way, I love the hand grenade or the grenade analogy. That's perfect.
Oh, good, because I've used that for about 20 years now because I heard somebody else say it, and I thought that was clever, and I'm going to put this as part of my lexicon, and I wish I could give them credit.
I'm going to steal it, so thank you.
Good. Do it, because I stole it too. Thank you, Terry. All right, this is Christine in Frisco. You're on WBAP. What would you do, Christine?
Hi, James. It's not so much as what I do. It's just what I'd say that we don't know how a dog's brain operates any more than a dog knows how we work. And so many people are so quick to analyze, my pit bull is great, my pit bull does this. We don't know. There's no Sigmund Freud of dogs, even though he was a rotten human being anyway. But that's just my opinion. We don't know what they're going to do. It's negligence on part of the person that owns the dog. There needs to be a level of caution with any dog. especially around people.
Well, so it's an animal, and it has the same fealties as a human being. You can train it perfectly. You can do everything right. And then every once in a while, it will just do something irrational, just like a human being. And so,
I do it every day. Absolutely.
right? So I don't understand what drives these people to get such a dangerous dog to begin with. And,
I don't think there's a problem with having that kind of dog. I think you need to be responsible. Don't take it to a dog park. Don't let it go off leash.
Well, I know. Look, I have an uncle, and I say uncle. He's a year older than me, so we're peers, and we hang out like buddies. But he has a pit bull, and look, I love the dog. Lana has always been good to me and whatnot, but it's always kind of nerve wracking. Like when I had infants and little kiddos, I didn't really want to take them to Uncle Joey's because he has Jesus perfect killing machine sleeping in his living room. And if that dude gets startled and, just decides to take a bite, or maybe it's having a bad dream, or maybe it freaks out or has a nom flashback or something, I don't know. But that's something that could kill my kid. And I don't have to worry about that with an orange tabby cat. I don't have to worry about that because I don't know what's going on in my dog's mind, but he's a little fat mutt. He's like a beagle mix. And you can tell by the size of his backside, he just wants food. That's all he wants. Maybe rub his belly.
I'm a Jack Russell terrorist, but but any dog. The human needs to be responsible, but we don't know what makes them turn on somebody. I've had the most wonderful dogs turn on people, want to rip their throats out.
Yeah,
golden retrievers that you would never expect that. Any dog. There's a level of responsibility from the human.
No, see, I don't have any personal experience with that or even secondhand experience with that. Like that's happened to one of my friends or one of my family members. But I have had quite a few people call in and say, listen, we were dog trained. I remember one that was like, my husband's a vet. I'm a dog trainer. And we still had one tear up my kid's arm. So, yeah, it's just what a weird risk to take with your children and with the people around you. Andrew in Lake Worth, you're on WBAP. What did you see this attack? This happened in your backyard?
No, I actually did not see this attack, but I do not have a solution. But what I do know is that that pit bulls can be very territorial, and in Lake Worth alone, people there can be really, really sketchy. So I think it's depending on the person and the dog itself, because the dog alone can and will hurt you if you either bother it or if you're just standing there in its territory. And a dog park can be one of those things.
Well, you made an important connection there. What is with the connection between the pit bull dog breed and sketchy white people? What's going on with that?
Well, I'll tell you from firsthand experience. I worked at the Alwoods over there in Lake Worth, and we allowed dogs over there all the time. And but there was also, especially during now in the holidays, people would actually, especially white people, white homeless people, and a little bit of the Hispanic people, because Sansom Park is like right there. They would actually steal with their dog in hand. And I think that if this person who let the dog beat the woman up could be one of those people, just like not really caring at all about what the dog is doing to the person, but it's also what I think is that dog should have been put down by somebody else who could have been watching it. It's also one of the reasons why I think open carrying is one of the greatest solutions in this country, because if I see somebody doing that to, or a dog seeing a dog doing that to somebody, you better damn sure know I'm gonna put a bullet in its head.
All right, and that's Andrew in Lake Worth. I appreciate you calling in, sir. That's all. It sounds like pretty solid advice there. But I appreciate the connection there, because is there anything sketchier than having a pit bull for your dog? Yeah, I just want this killing machine. I'm going to put it on a leash. We'll go for a walk around the neighborhood. It'll be fun. Well, why? Why do you need to do that? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. How do we solve pit bulls? We'll continue with that on The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. It's your chance to win part of $5K a day on WBAP. Your chance at $1,000 right now. Pay off some bills. Just text SAVE to 95819. That's SAVE to 95819, and you can score $1,000. Sponsored locally by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm. Good luck. How do we fix the pit bull issue? It's the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker, and a pit bull attack in Lake Worth that just happened last week kind of kicked off this conversation. And my answer is you treat the owner of the pit bull or any dog just like you would treat any of their other property. So if I hit you with a shovel, if I shot you with a gun, that would be aggravated battery, at least, if not attempted murder. So this lady should get charged with aggravated battery or attempted murder instead of this chintzy little, oh, it's a dog attack, something or other charge. Well, no, I don't think we're charging these people properly. And I'm sure there's probably someone on hold right now or calling in saying, well, I have a pit bull and I raised it right, and it's the owner's fault. It's not the breed. Well, listen, I'm not trying to ban pit bulls. You don't have to tell me that. I did get an email from Russell, though. I've been attacked by Chihuahuas, German Shepherds, Chows, Shih Tzus, Pomeranians, Beagles, just regular mutts. It seems like I get attacked by any dog. Bro, how are you getting attacked this much, Russell? Maybe it's you. You've been attacked this much by dogs? What are you, like a slow-running mailman? Is that what you are? How does this happen? But, let's see. Any dog just trying to be protective. So I guess they just need to ban dogs if they're going to start with stupid bans because they ban everything. Seems to be the American way. When there's something you don't like, just ban it. Well, I'm not for that, so you're not arguing against me. That's so stupid. I have a pit bull, and she cuddles better than my wife does, and she never barks. But one time, hang on. I think you might be doing it wrong, sir. I don't know how your marital situation is specifically. But does your wife? Have you told your wife that? She might disagree. Let's see. But I guess I'm just rolling around with a grenade on the coffee table. Only a matter of time, right? I tell you what, somebody's Chihuahua bites me, I'm calling the pound. They better come and have that Chihuahua put down. It's got to be equal. It has to be, even if you attack my pit bull, I'm attacking your stupid Chihuahua. Look, Russell, I think my solution solves for all that. Because, yeah, here's the difference between if a Chihuahua attacks you and a pit bull attacks you. You don't die. I think that's a pretty big distinction here. However, if you became the first person to die in a lethal Chihuahua attack, my point still stands. That should be murder. Maybe negligent manslaughter at the best. But I don't know. I think even with your smarmy, sarcastic, albeit quite funny email, Russell, I think my point still stands. Because my position isn't breed specific. I'm not trying to ban pit bulls. I'm just trying to hold people accountable when they get out of hand and hurt somebody. That's all. This is Misty in Weatherford. You're on WBAP. How would you fix this?
Hi, James. I just want to completely agree with everything you've said, and I have both sides of that story. My biological father raised pit bulls back in the 80s when they used to fight them down in Mansfield. Horrible situation. Grew up, 9 years old, down at a neighbor's house, just babysitting after school, was attacked by a mama pit bull, had to have cosmetic surgery on my face. But I have just like you said before, I have a toy Chihuahua, toy Fox Terrier. He loves my family to death. But I'm very, very cautious if he goes around any other children. It is completely my responsibility. I don't care the size of the dog. I understand certain breeds have more potential for that. But I am completely responsible for my little Chihuahua tearing a toenail off of a child just as much as a large dog owner is responsible for that as well. And that means any other pet in the home. So if my one pet attacks my other pet, that's my responsibility as well.
Well, listen, so your point stands. Yeah. You don't have to exaggerate. We're not just as worried about Chihuahua bites as we are pit bull bites. Because if a Chihuahua attacks me, I can kick it across the room. I could kick a field goal with a Chihuahua. I don't know if I'd win a fight against a pit bull. And I that's your point stands. It's just I am amused by the exaggerations.
But the Chihuahua can completely start off the pit bull. The pit bull could be as sweet as can be. My little Chihuahua is loving. I love him to death. He's my baby dog. But he will start a fight, and it gets the other dogs riled up. It's just one of those things. But, yeah, I agree. Any pet owner is responsible for their pet. I don't care if it's a snake that ate the neighbor's dog.
Yeah, I hear you. It really is that simple, isn't it? Why didn't everybody agree with us, Misty? We're so right on this one. Thank you very much. Keith in Arlington, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to mention, because I did a lot of research on this over the years, and one of the biggest problems with banning pit bulls is a pit bull is not a breed, it's a type of dog. A pit bull terrier is a breed, but it's not recognized by the AKC. It's the American Staffordshire Bull Terrier is the actual breed recognized by the American Kennel Club.
All right. Congratulations, Keith. You know more about dogs than I do. But my point still stands, doesn't it?
No, it does. Well, the problem is, like I said, if you try and ban pit bulls, that includes boxers and Labradors, and there's hundreds of breeds of dogs that would be banned.
But I don't want to ban pit bulls, right?
Issue. No.
Okay, you're just arguing against other people. I thought that was addressed to me.
Yeah. No, not at you. And the other thing, I have a Anatolian Shepherd at home.
I don't even know what that is, bro.
Yeah, the problem. Okay, so a pit bull terrier has about a 290-pound bite force. Anatolian Shepherd has a 740-pound bite force. So if you want to talk dangerous dogs, it's there's a lot of different breeds out there, a lot more dangerous than a pit bull terrier.
All right.
So what I'm trying to say is, people are putting the focus in the wrong area.
All right, Dog Encyclopedia. You're correct, and you know more than we do, and we're all very impressed. Are you the kind of guy that tells people, a tomato's really a fruit? Are you that guy too?
No, mostly just dogs.
All right, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for calling in, Keith. All right, we had an actual dog expert calling in there. Nothing but calls next on the pit bull situation. I'm looking for someone who disagrees with me. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. What do we do about these pit bull attacks? It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. If you're just joining us, there was a brutal pit bull attack in Lake Worth, and a woman was hospitalized. The cuts, I saw some pictures on WFAA that looked awful. She had to spend a little time in the hospital. It hit an artery in her arm, which means she almost bled out. She's going to make it. She's out of the hospital. She'll be fine. But I think the solution to this, a lot of people say, well, we need to ban pit bulls or something to that effect. I don't think you can ban a dog breed like that. Even if you could, I don't think it would work. I don't think more licensing would work. I don't think more training would work. I think you have to allow the people of America to have their full complement of freedom, even if it's with dogs that you don't prefer. And if something negative happens to them, they need to be held to full account. So none of this, the woman that is the owner of the dog that's suspected in the attack, she hasn't been put in custody yet, but she's facing charges. Lake Worth PD's looking for charges of like a dog attack causing seriously bodily harm. There's where the problem is in the book of James Parker here is that's an attempted murder. That's like that's almost a manslaughter. Like if she would have died, that's a manslaughter at least, if not a murder. And so we have to start treating dogs like we would any other property of the owner. If you kill someone or viciously attack someone with a gun or with a hammer or with a shovel, or I don't know, you hit someone really hard with a Furby, you're going to be charged with assault and battery, probably aggravated battery, maybe attempted murder. That's what should be charged here. This looks like an attempted murder. You do that enough times and the pit bull problem will solve itself. It'll never go to zero, but it'll minimize it. That's for damn sure. 800-288-9227. This is Mike in Burleson. You're on WBAP.
Hello. I was just wanting to say it doesn't even have to be attempted murder. Accidental is the same thing. In biblical times, you had a bull that might have got out and killed someone. That bull had to be put down, and the owner was responsible with their life as well. So you had to make sure that that bull was properly tied up. And today, we don't have that. We got these dog parks, everybody runs loose, but they're not keeping an eye on their animals. So, yes, they need to be held accountable for that.
So what did you call the charge? What do we need to charge them with?
Attempted murder, yes.
Attempted
absolutely.
murder? Okay. Well, it sounds like we're kind of on the same page there.
Accidental murder, either one, yeah.
Well, accidental murder, we call that manslaughter. I'm not a lawyer, so maybe I don't have my nomenclature perfect, but that's what I've observed is the term for that accidental murder is manslaughter.
Yes. Well, Either way, it's murder, and God holds our blood as sacred, and if someone draws blood, then they need to be held accountable for it.
All right. Well, that'd be more fun if you disagreed with me, Mike, but I think you're absolutely right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Jason in McKinney, you're on WBAP.
Hey, James, how you feeling, man?
Fantastic.
All right. Hey, man, look here. I can remember back since I was a kid, it's like the weather changing. There was a time it was the Doberman Pinschers that were the bad guys and the German Shepherds. But the thing about these pit bulls, if they're trained to fight or trained to attack, they're really good at it. And to the people who would like to see the eradication of the species, if we could do the research and come to find out that the pit bull is the most attacky and the most bitey of all of the dogs, and we all as a society vote to eradicate this species, well, then just the next runner-up is now the most attacky and bitey. But as far as a responsibility, yes, you are absolutely responsible for what your dog does, just like all the other responsibilities that you have with owning any animal. But I don't know where, like, say, your dog's brain jumps off one day and a thing goes ignorant and kills a couple of people. I don't think you get the death penalty or you do life in prison. I may be wrong. I don't know where the line is on this.
Yeah, so the line would be pretty easy in my book. If you let the dog out and you let the dog run free in a dog park and it goes crazy and kills somebody, that's murder. Now, if you can show that you had this dog that was locked up and it was in a reinforced fence and it also had like an electric fence and you had all these security things and it had to fail It had to go through several failures of your attempt to stop it, and it still got out and killed somebody. That would be manslaughter. That's how I think. If you were negligently letting the dog run free, it's murder. If the dog had to escape and somehow get through your very valid attempts to keep the people around you safe, then that's not on you anymore. That's just a dog that got out of control. And so that in my mind is manslaughter. Again, I have no legal training, so I'm just popping off the top of my head, but that's all I got. I'm just some hick from East Texas, and baseless speculation is my game, sir.
Well, okay, I'll go along with you on that. And, call me irresponsible, I suppose. Ever since I was a kid, I grew up out in the country, and everybody let their dogs run free. And I've still got one that does run free. He never has hurt anybody. When someone approaches the house, he acts like he would. And so maybe I'm just irresponsible as hell here,
Right.
but he runs free because
All right.
I want my dog to be able to be a dog,
Yeah, farm dogs, totally different story. We do not have this problem in the country at all. Plus, if you get attacked by a dog, you usually have a gun or something you can shoot it with. You'll be fine. Thank you for your call. That's Jason and McKinney. Hey, come by and say hi. The James Show is going to be broadcasting live from the Texas State Fair on Thursday and Friday next to the Old Mill. So if you're already going to be out there, I would love to meet you. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm about to get off of here. I'm going to go to opening night at the Stars game. Yeah, hockey's back. All right. In the meantime, go check out the James Show podcast. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.